ਠੀਕ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਇਹ ਬੈਟਲ ਆ, ਇਹ ਬੈਟਲਫੀਲਡ ਦੀ ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗ ਆ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨੇ ਪੂਰੀ ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਇਹ ਥਿਊਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਗਸਟਾਲਟ ਥਿਊਰਮ। ਗਸਟਾਲਟ ਥਿਊਰਮ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਯੂ ਲੁੱਕ ਐਟ ਦੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਹੋਲ, ਪਿਕਚਰ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਹੋਲ, ਹਨਾ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਸੋਲਜਰ ਆ, ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਹੈਗਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੂਰੀ ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਹਨਾ। ਸੇਮ ਮੈਥਡੋਲੋਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਪਲਾਈ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਟੁਵਰਡਸ ਹਾਊ ਟੂ ਰੀਡ ਅ ਬੁੱਕ। ਐਂਡ ਉਹ ਮੈਥਡੋਲੋਜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਬੁੱਕ, ਐਨੀ ਬੁੱਕ, ਸੋ she picked up any book and now the result is Gestalt theorem in action, right? So let us see how the memory principle works. Let us start.
Okay, good afternoon everybody. I'll be talking today about effective human interaction. Okay, so let me start with a little question. Not a question that I want an answer for, but something that I would like you to think about. When was the last time you felt that you underestimated the ability to be liked? And so human nature is basically we want to like others. We always think about, do we like the other person? We never think about, does the other person like us? So that's the whole idea of effective human interaction, making sure that we are also likable and that we feel respected, the other person feels respected, feels valued, and feels seen. Oftentimes we think about human interaction as something that's logical. We use a lot of our brain when it comes to talking to others. But inherently, human interaction is more emotional. People are humans. They have feelings, they care about things, and it's all about figuring out what those interests are and how we can appeal to that. That causes effective leadership and effective human being behavior. So in this discourse, there's 4 parts. I would like to talk about first how to handle people. Second, we will talk about how to become more likable. Third, we will talk about how to persuade others. And then fourth is very important, but persuasion without resentment. Because usually what happens is we persuade people, but the people that we try to persuade end up resenting us, and that's not very effective. So for the first part, let's talk about how to handle people. Let me ask for some input first.
How to ask? What are the first?
I would like to input.
What is this first topic?
How to handle people.
How to
Handle people.
handle people. How to handle people. Oh, that is interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So when someone critiques you or condemns you or corrects you, how do you react? I would like to ask for some input from anybody. You scared?
Unappreciated sometimes.
Yeah.
Listen patiently, that's
Yes. Yeah, oftentimes when someone critiques us, we feel resentful. We don't want it. We don't want to be critiqued. No one wants to be critiqued. Oftentimes, the opinions we have are not backed by rationality, but they're backed by because they're ours. We came up with that. It has ego attached to it. So when people critique us, they're essentially critiquing our own ego, and no one likes that. It puts the other person on the defensive. They're defending their own opinions. No one likes to argue. So that's a big no-no. The first step is to avoid criticism altogether. Instead, what should you do to handle people? You should appreciate them first. Everybody likes appreciation. Appreciation increases self-esteem. We're inherently human beings, and human beings like to have good self-esteem. That causes people to work hard. When you're criticizing people, that actually demotivates them. That kills ambition. When you appreciate them, that ultimately increases their ability to do more for you. And now you might ask me, isn't flattery wrong? Flattery is wrong, but I'm not asking for flattery. I'm asking for genuine appreciation. Appreciation that actually looks at what the other person is doing well and comments on that. Not like flattery would be, oh, you have nice eyes. I like the way your hair looks. That's flattery. Genuine appreciation is appreciating their way of thinking, the way they come off, the way they move throughout the world. That shows that you actually thought about what they come off of. So not flattery, but recognizing what they're doing well. A second step I would recommend is aligning with the other person's desires and interests. This essentially works in a way for them to be less receptive to, it makes them more receptive to thinking about what you care about. Once you think about other people's interests and start to frame things along with what they desire, they will think about you as someone that cares about them. And that is very important in how to handle people. So 3 ways that come out from this part is first, to not criticize people, second, to appreciate them, and third, that you should frame things in the way that people desire. Is everybody with me? Does anybody have any input or suggestions? Okay. So in the second part, we'll talk about likability. Now, I want you to think about the most likable person that you know. What makes them likable? And I'm asking the crowd if anybody would like to answer that question.
I like my daughter because she is happy always and positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's because she makes you feel positive.
Yeah.
Someone with similar interest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Krisanga?
Someone who values your opinions.
Uh-huh. Yes. Scared?
The way someone makes you feel.
Exactly. Usually likability comes with how people make you feel. You said that your daughter is always happy and is always optimistic, and that makes you feel optimistic and happy.
Yeah.
So likability comes with how people make you feel. And you will say that, oh, maybe likability is a part of your personality. Someone is extroverted, and that's why people like them. Or they have charisma. But likability is more about presence. How much are you genuinely interested in other people? Human beings are driven by the desire to feel important. Once we give them the desire to feel important, they will automatically like you more. Now, there's a few ways that you can make people like you. You can smile at them, and that sounds like some flattery or some smile that you do for formality's sake. It's more of a warm smile, something that actually allows them or allows you to warmly greet them or feel appreciated. Again, like the first part, we talked about how being appreciated is very important. So when you smile at someone, genuinely smile at them, they feel more appreciated and want to be around you. The other thing would be to remember people's names. The names are such important things to people. It's like the most fruitful word in the universe. Once you say their name, they will remember you for the rest of your life. Sometimes you won't even know that someone knows your name, and once they say your name, they will remember that for the entire. Try to remember of a time where you thought that someone didn't know your name, and then they come up to you and they say your name. Think about how that felt to you. It's a really, really, really good feeling. It's a feeling of genuine pride and likability. So that's automatically you want to like that person because they care about you, right? The other thing I'd recommend is to show a genuine interest in others. Usually what happens is during conversations, it's really one-sided. You'll ask, hi, the other person will respond, hi. You'll be like, how are you? Good. How are you? And they'll respond, good. It's very, very two-dimensional. Genuine interest is when you're actually interested in what the other person has to say. So when you're saying, how are you? And they respond, good, ask them, what did you do over the weekend? They'll be like, oh, I went to Muskoka. And then you'll be like, oh, did he do anything fun? Sometimes we want to hear questions from the other person because we love talking about ourselves. But maybe try asking questions about them. Ask questions about how they feel, what they want to do. I know it's scary, and I know sometimes we don't like to ask questions about others, and I know that sometimes we just want to do all the talking, but let others talk too. Let others feel appreciated, and let others demonstrate that you can also be interesting. And then going back to the whole thesis, people love to feel that they are important. So once you ask questions about their interests, they already start to feel important. So there's three, so I'm just gonna summarize part 2. It was feel genuinely interested in others. Smile at them, remember their names, and be genuinely interested and ask questions about their interests. So in part 3, I just want to start with a brief question or input from anybody. Think about the last time someone persuaded you. Did they argue with you, or did you think that you arrived at the same conclusion together? Just hear it?
Same conclusion.
Yeah. No one likes to argue. No one likes to argue. Our opinions are connected to our identity, our pride, our ego. So when people start to argue with us, that's a direct threat to our ego. No one likes that. No one likes to be on the defensive. No one likes to start to prove their opinions, even if they might just be the most irrational opinion out there. But people enjoy that you appreciate their opinions. So instead, how do you persuade people then? If you don't argue with them, how do you persuade them? What you should do is you should let the other people talk. Let the other person talk about what they think. Let them talk more about their opinions, why they're coming up to that solution. And once you start talking about, once you allow people to talk about their opinions more, they're willing to listen to you too. It's a conversation at the end of the day. You should guide the conversation to what you begin to think about, instead of directly telling them what you should think about. Listen to them and make it as if your point of view is a direct connection to their point of view. It's a conversation. You begin in a friendly way. You show respect to other people. And that is how people actually are persuaded by you, because they're more willing to hear from you and your point of view once you start asking them how they feel. If you're wrong, admit that you're wrong. This essentially works to disarm the other person, because now they're not thinking of this as a competition on who is right or wrong. They're thinking of this as more of a collaborative approach. You're coming to a solution together. It's more of a collaboration and not out arguing somebody. So that's part 3. When it comes to persuasion, it's all about collaboration, not out arguing with everybody. Is everybody with me? Any input or suggestions? Okay, so let's move on to part 4. Part 4 talks about how to persuade people and not have them be resenting of you. Now I'm gonna put out a question for everybody, or maybe an input. Think about the last time someone gave you feedback. Did you feel respected by it? I'm getting a lot of no's. It's very rare. It's very rare that when people give you feedback that you feel respected. Most of the time, You feel resentful because, again, your opinions are an extension of your ego. So when some people start to give you feedback in an unappreciative way, that hurts your ego right away. You feel resentful automatically. So how do you fix that? How do you fix correction that injures pride? You start with praise. You start with praise by praising what they did right. That already disarms them. They already like you now. Now that you have told them that you did something right, they appreciate that. Then you talk about your own missteps. Maybe you did something wrong as well. Now that this automatically disarms them again, because now they're thinking of this as more of a collaborative approach. They're not thinking of this as a competition to see who is right or wrong. When you point out your own mistakes, they know that they can also talk about what they did wrong too. Again, this is a conversation. You're not supposed to be embarrassing anybody. You should create a space for emotional safety where people are allowed to talk about their own opinions and not feel resented when you give feedback to them. So that's part 4. Part 4 goes over how to persuade people and not have them be resentful of you. And that is by providing them emotional safety that doesn't injure their pride. Does anybody have any input? Is anybody with me? Is everybody with me still? Okay. I do want to provide a caveat, and I think that's integral to critical thinking. Can anybody think about how being emotionally attuned might be a disadvantage in some fields? Scared?
I guess in law, when you're trying to make a critical argument, your emotions can bring a lot of bias in.
Yeah?
A doctor.
Yeah? Being a doctor? Like for example, yeah, law is a great example, science is, doctor is a great example. When you're in these fields, being critical is a part of the trajectory of the field. You can't always avoid arguments. Being a lawyer requires you to be critical. You're supposed to be critical of opposing counsel. You're supposed to be critical of opposing arguments. So I would say, and Mr. Woodwell and I have talked about this a lot, but these principles are universal. They're powerful, but they're also situational. You still need these principles in lots of fields, like negotiation, client care, mediation, but you shouldn't blindly follow them. There should be tools that you look at every now and then and be universal with them. So that's part 5, being critical. Is everybody with me? Anybody have any suggestions or input? So I would like to conclude by saying that to have interactions, good human interactions, and to change people's opinions and persuade them with effective behavior and conduct, you need to provide emotional safety to others. You need to be attentive, provide humility, be graceful with what you're saying. Provide an understanding conduct, because understanding is essentially better than having more ego. No one likes people when they have more ego than you. So be more understanding. This is what creates better professionals, and at the end of the day, that's what creates better human beings. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I've seen like some of my clients, they start telling me their personal stories, even in the very first meeting. So what should be my reaction to that? Like, should I keep listening? So I do listen. They feel better when they, unload everything, all those emotions.
Yeah.
But as a professional, what do you suggest?
Yeah, so I think the whole idea that they're actually willing to talk to you just demonstrates how open you are and how they feel emotionally safe around you. But at the end of the day, you're not their therapist. So that you can provide advice to them and they'll feel, I think already, like the fact that they're actually willing to tell you their feelings demonstrates that you're a good leader and that you're good at absorbing other people's opinions. But you shouldn't be providing advice to them, because at the end of the day, that's their discretion. But the intent should be clear, that you should tell them that you're willing to listen, but the advice component shouldn't be coming from you.
Yeah, but sometimes the clients in such a situation, let's say they want to do a mortgage in my business, but they're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
They started telling them their personal story. What should advice be in that case? Then I have to give some advice based
Yeah.
on their situation, right? Like
Yeah.
like you said, these things are situational, right?
Yeah,
So that applies to this.
exactly. No,
Right.
I agree with that. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, so you mentioned that criticism can often be counterproductive. What would you do in a case where someone really needs to hear the truth, even if it's in a professional setting?
Yeah. So I think in that sense, it's all about delivery. How are you delivering that criticism? So always start with appreciation, right? You start with appreciation. What did they do right in that circumstance? And then gently change the conversation to what you want to tell them. Tell them the little criticism that you're telling them. It disarms people. The whole idea is that people like to feel important. Once you start to be critical of them, that dismantles their ability to feel important. So appreciate them. So you're already giving them the ability to feel important. Once you start appreciating, they already feel important. So then gently redirect the conversation to their critique of them. Thank you for that question.
I have a question for you. Now, we live in a very monistic world, right? Everything is oriented toward money.
Yes.
Now, a person is motivated by money, but your postulate says that do we still have to appreciate that attitude? Or is that money is a different set of word and leadership and your postulate is a different set?
So I would say they're a different set of thinking. Money is ultimately a byproduct of being a good leader. Once you're a good leader, money shouldn't be relevant anymore. That's just gonna happen in any case.
So your objective is to build this stronger strength of character rather than approach toward money, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you say that appreciation, even if somebody is money making machine, we should appreciate that?
Yeah, because ultimately that's their own opinion.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, Kristen?
What do you do if someone seems to not engage and they feel uninterested or cold or even skeptical?
Yeah, and that's totally normal. Some people are inherently introverted and they just don't want to open up. So the whole idea is that you create this emotional safety around them that they're willing to open up. And that would happen at one point or the other anyways. If you open up and you give that emotional stability to them, they will open up at one point or the other. Some people are faster than others and some people are slower, and that's just how human characteristics are. Anybody else have any questions? No?
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Good job. बंद कर दिया